Good morning, Joe.
Morning, Patch.
What brings you here?
This is actually my second time here at the festival in Montreal at Festival Actacton.
It's,
And yeah,
it's pretty crazy to believe that you and me having a phone call 3 years ago turned into this.
I know I've always dreamt of getting that call because I spent a lot of time in Montreal, and I've all my friends would go away in the summer. And they'd be like, "Oh, Patch just taking me, whatever." So I was like, "Oh," and I was doing something else. So like, to finally, after all these years, get that call felt pretty good because, yeah, I knew that you were always doing big things. So I was like, I can't wait to get that call one day. And
Dude,
sure enough,
now we got the chance, and it's
yeah, and now we're breaking bread.
for me this thing that we're doing is it's nice to be able to touch kids in that way.
Mm.
But the one day that really sort of grabbed me by the throat was the second day we had last year when
Oh,
that
yeah.
busload of kids came from the foster care system.
Yeah.
And the looks on their faces when they came onto the site and saw that that was their playground for the day.
Yeah.
And that there was a whole load of people there to give them all the attention, and it was all about them. For me, that was something special.
Yeah, I mean, for us growing up, it was a different era. You know what I mean? We definitely had. I don't know. For myself, I'm speaking for myself. I had identity issues. You know what I mean? In the beginning of it all, because I couldn't afford a skateboard. But I identified as a skateboarder, even though I didn't even own one. That's how raw the culture was. So back in the '80s, trying to adapt or trying to like cling on to something that you like was risky. You know what I mean? And so kids now these days, given that opportunity because they see all their other friends doing it, that's what fills the void for me. For being an ex-addict in recovery, I'm like, this is just like getting high. You know what I mean? You're like seeing the kids
high on life instead of high on
seeing
substance.
the kids just gravitating towards something that took me like so long, to like figure out. They're just getting it right there. You know what I mean? So for me, that's just like years that what it took for me to accomplish to be able to be confident in what is that I loved and adored. These kids are getting it in a couple of days.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's just like, wow, if we could keep that momentum going. And I mean, and with the work I do, it's like especially gratifying. You know what I mean? It's extra because yeah, not all indigenous youth are able to come to the city to come and experience something such as these festivals. You know what I mean? So that's why we go to the front line, and we go right to the community, make sure we don't miss anybody. You know what I mean? And so yeah, it feels good to be able to be here on this level. You know what I mean? It's
for us, it's a pleasure and an honor, and you bringing in new faces every year has been cool.
mm-hmm.
Murph is a great addition.
Yeah, it's definitely.
He's a special kid.
Yeah, Murph for sure. I've always dreamt of being able to just give back on some level. I just never really I don't know. I didn't know what steps I had to take in order to, who I had to call or what I had. You know what I mean? I mean, in the beginning stages, sobering up, if there was a pill, I would have took it. You know what I mean? How do you do this? It was all so tender and so new to me that there was no manual for all this.
No, but it's sort of cool that just being you is what opened that door.
And that's what took me forever to realize is that there was moments where I would get to about 2 years in my sobriety, you know what I mean? And being an ex-heroin addict, I would only get to that 2 years and there was something there that would just make me reset, you know what I mean? And whether it was my day-to-day or it was something I knew that was hidden around the corner before I took it, I was too scared to take that corner, and it was just what would set me. And so being able to figure that out at the same time, having all these extra, I wouldn't say responsibilities, you know what I mean? But it's like a form of
now you're like dad to a lot of kids.
Well, it's just because I never had mine took off at a young age. So I'm like, all right, I get to be able to I mean, just show them the shortcut, you know what I mean? Instead of having to take decades like it took me, you know? And so, I mean, it doesn't stick to all the kids, you know, it doesn't necessarily, you know, 2 out of 10 might get it, and you know what I mean? They start figuring it out, and the other kids are, of course, they know skateboarding, but I mean, it's more just, yeah, if you can get across to the couple of kids that are there that are really into it, you know what I mean? Because some of them just pick it up and put it down, you know? And so,
And just to sort of give a bit of history on sort of what Joe and I were talking about and how the event came about. One evening a few years ago, I called Joe up and said, "Hey, I have an opportunity that we can have a forum for kids in downtown Montreal that they would never otherwise have the opportunity of having." And you know, we're fortunate enough to have the support of Connor Neeson and the whole Vans team behind us, and the Nations team and Revolution 514. And you know, there's a lot of good skateboarding old souls around here that want to see something happen that's good and free and accessible. And so when we had the opportunity to bring skateboarding to downtown Montreal, that, you know, Indigenous kids could come and try it for the first time or prove their, you know, prove themselves, we jumped on it. And this is our second year, and it's growing exponentially. You know, we've developed a nice little family of people that look forward to come back here year. You know, it's only year 2, but it feels like we've been doing it longer than that. It's fun.
Totally.
And you know, with the help of Rose Archie and everybody on your guys' team, we've put together something that's pretty special for kids and parents and opportunities.
Totally, yeah. I mean, when we started Nations back in 2000, the beginning of 2020, that was January, and so we were like, okay, we're gonna like launch this in March, and then in February of that year, we ended up getting our first gig in Prince George, Northern BC, and so we were like, well, surprise, like, cat's out of the bag. I'm like, yeah, we're Nations, and this is what we do, and blah 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 blah. And so then, yeah, it just started picking up from there. And I mean, during COVID, it was so needed, you know what I mean? And like all the kids were cooped up. And like what we had done is we went a province over, you know what I mean? We just did like an extra tour, and then the momentum caught on. And before you knew it, everybody got on board with it, you know what I mean? And so it's awesome because like when you're not driven by money, you know, people just want to support that, you know what I mean? Like, and if your words align with your action and you're actually about the youth and you actually want to see them get ahead, you know, and all that, then that's when everybody comes together, you know, and everybody joins, and it's amazing to see what's been happening.
Yeah.
It's like grown legs, and it's like its own thing, and it's like a dream, you know.
You know, it's fun. We've reached out this year. It seems to be, you know, we've reached out to a lot of Indigenous kids, but we've had kids from around the world that have been showing up at that thing.
It's been amazing.
Kids from Mexico, kids from the Congo, kids from Tunisia. It was
Peru.
Yeah.
That's been pretty amazing. And so, yeah, that's eventually where we want to get to, you know, with Nation Skate Youth, is to eventually, like, we're in the position now to be able to open chapters like clear across Turtle Island. And so, you know, next year we're going to be going to Australia, and like we're going to Arizona in November. And like, you know, we've got a bunch of other cool trips lined up, and yeah, the word's spreading, you know what I mean? Not so much the word, it's just the movement of skateboarding and trying to catch that younger generation, you know what I mean? And so no one's left out, so everyone can have an equal kick at it, you know?
You know, and for those parents that don't necessarily understand skateboarding, skate culture is something special. It gives a family to kids that don't have families. You can walk into a skate park not knowing anybody and walk out with friends, a place to stay, food. You know, it's your home away from home.
It's definitely like a universal language that, you could just see a skater from across the street, and you don't even have to know their name, and it's an automatic like connection, and you dap them up, and you're like, "Where's the spots?" And you know, you found a home.
Where can I find this? Where can I find that?
And the hospitality rolls out in the town.
You know, it's funny. I've met people on street corners that are friends now 30 years later.
Yeah,
you know,
totally.
All because of skateboarding and everything that goes with it.
Yeah, it's pretty powerful. And I mean, back in the days when I moved here in '99, I moved, and it was for an indoor park.
In '99, it was a different animal for both of us.
Yeah, and I didn't even have like really a place to live. I was just sleeping in closets or couches and stuff. And so I moved here for an indoor Taj Mahal, and then eventually I just stayed. And so I stayed for 6 months and then
never left.
Yeah, I came for 6 months and I stayed for 10 years. So it was pretty much just like, I just love it here, you know? And so that's
part of the attraction of Montreal, though.
I mean, where I'm from, I had older skaters, like, you know, like the Barry and the Marks, and the you know, you've got like your elder skaters who like have been holding down the scene, you know what I mean? So for me, all the older guys that skated for me either moved on in life and stopped skating, or, you know what I mean? It kind of like the scene kind of dwindled where I was from. And so coming out to the East Coast and picking up a mag and seeing, you know what I mean? Long before I even came to Montreal, I saw these people in the magazines and was just like, whoa, they're here at the park. What? I'm like, and so the people I grew up looking up to, I eventually became super tight with, you know what I mean? So that kind of feeling where I had to go looking for it, you know what I mean? Being from the res, being, you know, doing what I had done, you know, like doing 5 years in a kid's jail, basically, and then going and finding the dudes in the mags and finding, you know, where the scene was. It's only 2 hours from Ottawa. So I was like, what? I'm like, I immediately came here and was just engulfed by this skate scene where everybody was so welcoming, and like, and the skateboarding level of skating was so advanced, and I was just like, I felt like a beginner, you know what I mean? And it's because of, you got like the old guys who were holding the scene down.
There's a good old crew here.
Yeah, so it's like, it's pretty rad to be able to.
We got to figure, everybody at our shop, all the owners of the shop, we're all over 50 years old, and we all still skate. You know what I mean?
Look at the experience there. You know what I mean? That's a lot of skate experience right there.
First thing about being old school, man, you got to be old.
Yeah, no doubt. Yeah, so it's been pretty sweet. I've got a huge heart, a huge place in my heart for Montreal and the East Coast. You know, like when I moved here from the prairies, I picked the first video I saw was like Underachievers. You know what I mean? Like, that's like Dan Wolf filming, and it was like all these East Coast skaters, and I was like, I fully switched up my style and everything, and was like, this is how you're supposed to skate. Like, and then skating all those years on the East, and then never once going to California in all my years of skating up until last year. It was my first time in Cali. But before that, I was just like, this is how it's supposed to, you know what I mean? I was like, East Coast is where it's at. And I'm like, I'm from Alberta, you know? So it was just amazing to like have that, you know, it gave me that extra direction in how raw skateboarding is supposed to look. And Montreal was like the epitome of the street culture in all of North America, pretty much, you know what I mean? Because of its old architecture, and it's the scene, and you know, the pipe, and like, dude, skateboarding's been here since like the test of time, you know what I mean? And so
the first skate movie was here,
right?
Devil's
like,
Toy, man.
Devil's Toy down the mountains in the
1966, Claude Dutra.
Right? So I mean, that kind of history. So I mean, just to be around, kind of like vibe, you know, it's just always been a trip. It just made me want to stick around, you know. So
what do we want to do for next year, man? How do we want to make this better for next year?
If we had like
more art, more music, more kids.
It'd be cool if we had like a little like small stage out back where we can have like local performances from like clear across Turtle Island, who could come in and just like, you know, have set schedules, and we can do like, you know, there's like, yeah, that would be cool to see a lot of.
One of the things I'd like to see happen for next year is I'd like to get more Indigenous skate companies involved.
Yeah.
and have them present and
like,
have them selling and
booths.
have them boot, tents
Yeah.
and stuff like that.
I think that's a great idea.
When we first talked about this, the direction that both of us knew and wanted to sort of run with was an Indigenous Warped Tour.
When you said that to me, I
it was
was
just
like, I couldn't believe that when you said that. I was
And,
like, what?
Montreal
Oh.
was the one place, as you well know, where Warped Tour just went off.
Everybody in the world knows Warped Tour.
Yeah, and so this is our chance to make our little Warped Tour.
That would be
Give
amazing.
the kids the opportunity to come in on different levels, artists,
And
musicians,
shine, yeah.
And
also
anybody out there that's got some talent with a paintbrush or creativity with art or whatever, please reach out to us. Come find us.
All artists.
Calling
all artists.
It's an open forum. Let's go. We need to know you're out there.
The third annual, I know, is going to be a big one.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, the first year kind of felt like a dry run, kind of like, oh, do this, don't do that, and just kind of like formulating it. And so it's just going to get better.
What's nice though is it's us that gets to formulate it.
Yeah, that's true.
By skaters, for skaters.
True. Yeah, it's exciting.
You're looking at the administration.
The board of directors.
Nice.
Amazing.
Well, for me, this is something that this festival's been around. This is the 33rd year. And it's something it's touched a lot of people. If you look where we are, you can't see where we are from where you are, but we have the full Jazz Fest festival grounds in downtown Montreal. It's huge. We're represented the same way as Jazz Fest or Francophonie. And, we have a massive international forum here that is welcoming to everybody. And the one thing where we want to do is increase the youth attraction to this. And that's where the skateboarding really, really helps. And kids come in and, all right, mom and dad, yeah, there's something for you over here, but I got to go over there. I'll see you later. It's so, I think 33 years so far, I'd like to see at least 10 or 15 years of progression in the skate event to see how big we can make it.
That would be amazing. I'm down.
To take over that whole backside over there and that little grassy area below it where we could have our own stage.
Yeah.
Dude, that would be hot. Run shows all day long and then to the nighttime.
Yeah, to the main stage.
Maybe a national competition to be able to get some kids out here that would love the opportunity to show their wares.
Yeah.
I guarantee you there's got to be a handful of kids like you.
Definitely.
Super talented.
I mean, maybe not as old as me.
As you when you were a kid.
Yeah, definitely. There's definitely a scene out there.
And I definitely want to get more girls involved.
Yeah.
I mean, I look at how my daughter and her friends have reacted to this thing, and they're all here like religiously every day. And we need the older generations to catch on, like the younger ones are.
Try and make it as inclusive as possible.
100%. That's the beautiful thing about skateboarding. It's
no rules.
No rules. We were all the freaks when we were a kid because we rode that thing with 4 wheels.
But when we were growing up, there was more
t-shirts with no
gatekeeping.
sleeves.
There was more gatekeeping, and there was more vibing out when we were growing up. Like even in the 90s, it was pretty bad. So I mean, it's loosened way up.
Yeah.
And like not only that, but anything goes.
Yeah.
There's no. Yeah.
Okay. Well then, thank you very much. Good night.
Well,
hey,
thank you.
Come and see us again soon, please.
Yeah,
we invite everybody.
From everyone at Nation Skate Youth. We have a website and Instagram and all that. But yeah, we love you.
Come find us.